Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Grenadians go to the polls today, 8 months ahead of schedule. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 23rd June 2022. Details when we return.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grenadians, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back. As Grenadians head to the polls 8 months shy of schedule, many are watching with bated breath, as the anticipation is that this keenly contested general election can be any of the two parties to win. The incumbent New National Party administration, headed by Dr. Keith Mitchell, a 50-year veteran of the local political landscape, having started out with the Grenada National Party GNP of Herbert Blair's at the age of 25, and who became successful in elective politics in 1984, a year after the crash of the Grenada Revolution, has been seen to have underestimated the temperature of the local political landscape. The main opposition, in an effort to reorganize itself ahead of the naming of the date for the elections, started to put its house in order with the election of a new political leader and executive in late October 2021, a move which made it bountifully attractive to the electorate. Its new leader, Deacon Mitchell, a 44-year-old highly respected and successful local attorney, has been making serious inroads with his attractiveness as a fresh face with fresh perspective and bold plans to manage the state's affairs to bring benefits to the entire nation under his transformational agenda. The campaign trail has been active, with supporters on either side of the divide exhibiting a spiritedness never before experienced in elective politics. This 2022 election is dubbed the election of all elections, as the youth of the nation seem energized to vote for meaningful change based on substance and not hype. Observers seem content that whether or not the opposition NDC succeeds in forming the next administration, they are surely anticipated to perform much better than the party has in both the 2013 and 2018 polls when they received consecutive whitewashes. This would mean a victory of sorts for them, as they are coming from zero. Polls open at 6 a.m. and close later on in the day around 5 p.m, with the count starting immediately after and results expected by at least 9 p.m. Regardless of the outcome, in spite of the spiritedness of both sets of supporters, this campaign period can be dubbed very safe and incident-free. For the most part, the vibrations on the ground favor change, should the main opposition succeed in bringing out the vote. We stand by to bring you the final results. In other news, a Trinidadian political analyst, Dr. Bishnu Raghunath, weighs in on the Labour movement's lack of confidence vote in the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. He says it shows the government has lost the support of the union leaders, but the man on the ground ultimately determines who rules at the end of the day. More from Nicole M. Romani of TV6 News.
During their Labor Day march in Faizabad on Sunday, members of the trade union movement voiced satisfaction with Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, saying he had little regard for the working class, and they also highlighted the continued retrenchment in the state enterprise sector. Dr. Bishnu Raghunath says, while the unions are free to express their discontent, it may not really have any bearing on the outcome of national elections.
So in that regard, they have withdrawn their support from the PNM. Now, as you said, it's not binding on the PNM, it's not binding on anybody. More critically, it is not binding on the supporters of the PNM once an election is called. So yes, the trade union movement have always said that they could say what they want, they could do what they want, but when it comes to election times, it is the ordinary man on the street who will go out there and cast their vote for whichever party they would like to support.
Dr. Raghunath tells the TV6 Morning Edition that the position adopted by JTM leader Ansel Roger is perhaps in response to a failed deal with the government.
That clearly has a role to play in the process, in Mr. Roger's thinking, because Mr. Roger clearly now realizes that the promises that he probably would have gotten from the PNM and from Dr. Rowley were not being come to any realization. And in that regard, he's now seen himself as having to challenge the government publicly and bring them to book for supposedly going back on their word that they would have given to him.
The political analyst says he believes if prices continue to go up, if inflation continues to rise, and people are unable to afford basic foodstuff added to increased retrenchment and unemployment, it will be up to the public to decide which political party they will vote for and when enough is enough. Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
With 10 murders recorded over the long weekend in Trinidad and Tobago, consultant clinical psychologist and university lecturer Dr. Khatija Khan says the society is traumatized but not surprised. She says a more responsive approach to dealing with crime and violence is needed. TV6's Nicole Romani again reports.
Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob has said that of the 10 murders recorded, 8 were classified as gang-related or affiliated. Consultant clinical psychologist Dr. Khatija Khan says society's approach to dealing with crime and violence must change.
I think we're carrying a heavy burden of trauma in our society. I think everyone is carrying it. And depending on what people are going through and what they've experienced, their loads may be heavier. And I think what is really important is that our response to violence cannot be a reactive one, where, when there is something a little more heinous than usual, when there is a higher speed than usual, then we decide, okay, what are we going to do about violence? We have to be responsive and not just reactive.
According to Dr. Khan, these violent behaviors start in the home from a young age and can be the result of several factors.
And here now we want to look at the home environment, the workplace environment, what's going on with family structures and how are children being socialized. And that leads us to the community factors. So we want to look at how things like poverty and inequity, how discrepancies in our education systems, how economic opportunities, what kind of cohesion do we have in communities? All of these things are pertinent as well.
She referenced the female student who was recently suspended from school after stabbing another child during an altercation and stressed that children who exhibit violent behavior cannot simply be written off.
This is why I think us focusing on children now is also a really important thing, because that's where we have this opportunity now to intervene and perhaps change the pathway of these children. So when we see these acts, I think one of my sources of discontent is when we see these acts of school violence, we want to write off these children and speak about them as if something is bad and evil about them. And no. Instead of asking, so one of the key trauma-informed principles is that we ask not what's wrong with children, but what has happened to children.
Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
The opposition United Workers' Party in St. Lucia is questioning the motive behind government's plans to appoint a special prosecutor to probe allegations of corruption against the previous administration. Jason Darius of the DBS News World reports.
Sections of the public are lamenting the St. Lucia Labour Party government's decision to institute a special prosecutor tasked with the scrutinizing of projects during the tenure of the United Workers' Party administration. The UWP has accused the SLP administration of a, quote, personal vendetta, unquote, against the former administration. However, Communications Director for the St. Lucia Labour Party, Lisa Jawahir, says the previous administration members should have nothing to fear with the impending appointment, as long as the actions were above board.
The whole purpose of appointing a special prosecutor is to pursue the agenda of the people. And rightfully so, giving the St. Lucian public an account of the funds that were spent by the previous administration for the 5-6 years that they were in government. So to make a statement such as the SLP is embarking on some personal vendetta, I find to be ridiculous. I mean, this is putting people first. This is finding answers to the amount of money that was spent during the administration of the United Workers' Party. And if the former Prime Minister, Mr. Alan Chasney, has nothing to hide, then he should have absolutely no issue with this bill coming forward.
However, the opposition United Workers' Party says it has no issue with the government implementing a special prosecutor. Opposition Senator Dominic Fede reveals that the opposition welcomes the implementation of a special prosecutor as long as the processes remain transparent.
Well, I think that you have to do a comprehensive sweep, and I hope that the investigation will also be looking at members of the current cabinet as well. We have to start from there. So I think you want to clean your house up. There are so many allegations of corruption. There are so many allegations surrounding certain leading officials of this administration that it is absolutely crucial that the prosecutor not only look at a selected group of individuals, but to have a comprehensive and broad sweep wherever there is corruption. So it's something that I certainly welcome. It gives us a chance to ensure that there is accountability with the governance of our country.
Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ernest Gillere is insisting that the appointment is justified, as the public remains curious as to the expenditure of the previous government.
I cannot understand how one would say that the people are concerned about how certain projects were managed, certain expenditure were not accounted for, and to try to find answers, it's a waste of money. I mean, you just have to ask the former Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition, how much money was spent trying to investigate me, for example? I mean, and right now the courts have ruled in a particular way, and guess who's going to get a lot of money now? I mean, you know, I don't know that it is a waste of money. It is about accountability and transparency. The United Workers' Party always do that. When they're in government, they run riot on the finances of the country, and when you ask them to account, they say it's a personal vendetta, it's a waste of money. Well, the special prosecutor will investigate, and then we will see if it was a waste of money.
The special prosecutor bill was tabled in the House of Parliament on Tuesday, 21st June. For the DBS News World, I am Jason Darius.
Almost 2 years after making a promise to conduct a commission of inquiry into the 2020 general elections in Guyana, President Irfan Ali has named a 4-man commission. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana has more.
Almost 2 years after his promise to conduct a commission of inquiry into the 2020 national elections, President Irfan Ali this afternoon named the 4-member commission. In a statement from his office, the president announced that non-resident Justice of Appeal for the Turks and Caicos Islands, Trinidadian retired Judge Stanley John, will serve as the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry. Justice John is the current chairman of the Public Service Appeal Board in Trinidad and Tobago and is a former member of the Ethics Committee of Cricket West Indies. The president also named the former Justice of Appeal of the Eastern Caribbean Court and former Attorney General of Belize, Godfrey Smith, as a member of the Commission of Inquiry. Mr. Smith has held several government ministerial positions in Belize over the years. The former Chief Elections Commissioner for India, Dr. S.Y. Kushrai, has also been named as a member of the Elections Commission of Inquiry. He served as the Chief Elections Commissioner in India for a number of years and is credited as the founder of the India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management. Rounding off the 4-member commission is former acting chancellor of Guyana, retired Chief Justice Carl Singh. Justice Singh retired as the acting chancellor in 2017 after serving in that position for 12 years. He was never confirmed as chancellor. He also served as a professor of law and head of the Department of Law at the University of Guyana from 2017 to 2019. The Office of the President did not release the terms of reference of the Commission of Inquiry, but indicated that a 2-member team has also been appointed to assist the Commission with its work. According to the statement, in the coming weeks, the intended commissioners and resource personnel will review the reports and documentation, set out modalities, and commence their work. The Commission will be expected to examine the work of the Guyana Elections Commission during the 2020 elections and the claims by the main political parties of alleged fraud and alleged rigging during the elections.
Hubbard's Motor Department Mount Gay and Hubbard's Tire Bay, located at the Building Supplies Compound in Grenadians, are reminding the motoring public that another round for licensing and inspection has begun. Just arrived on new shipments of quality furrowed and torque tires to fit all makes and models of vehicles at competitive pricing. Shop early to avoid the hassle of long lines. WhatsApp them on 473-405-5482. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.